Right now, we have a huge escalation in terms of the military, the equipment the United States brought to the region in order to put a lot of pressure on Iran. Maybe, nobody knows what's going on in the mind of Donald Trump and his administration. He may attack, in the next hour.
Yeah.
That's why the situation is so fragile. It's so important to understand. And when it comes to Donald Trump and these sort of moves and these sort of pressures he's trying to put on Iran, do you think militarily, how is that going to be frightening for the Iranians? Because I am here in Iran, all they say is that they're prepared and they know if the United States wants to attack, they know the escalation, they know the scale of the attack. That's why they're all prepared to, even with a single attack, they're gonna go all in to respond to attack. It's gonna be Israel gonna be the target, the American assets gonna be the target in the region, and the aircraft carriers. But what's your understanding of this new situation, the escalating situation between the two parties?
Well, I mean, you pretty much described it already. I mean, this is exactly what it is. And while Iran will continue to play diplomatically, which is absolutely as Frank Herbert's Dune, the famous, the forms must be obeyed, that Iran will continue to do this. Russia and China work diligently behind the closed doors to sort of settle this whole thing, and but Trump, for all his bluster and chest thumping, somebody has to tell him that in order for him to even consider this seriously, if he wants to end his presidency, he certainly can try, and he probably can do some damage, to Iran, no doubt about it. But the problem is, and the problem is purely arithmetic here, is that the United States has only about they vary. Obviously, nobody will tell you the real number, but it's somewhere between 2.5, maybe 3,500 of the Tomahawk missiles. It's Block 4 and Block 5, the most. They are still obsolete, but they are just Tomahawk missiles. That's the only asset, the standoff weaponry, which the United States can use without being affected, for example, immediately in the naval sphere, so to speak. Because, you can run, some aircraft, but primarily the basically Arleigh class destroyers, and obviously the Virginia class submarines, and you can pull in one of the highest, which still goes out to sea, which is the SSGN, which has been converted to carry 152, I believe, Tomahawks. Once you launch that, you might get some targets, okay? But first, Iran does have air defense. And secondly, what are you going to do with the bases, American bases in the area? And Israel gets it immediately because everybody understands what drives U.S. policy towards Iran. It's the fact that Trump is owned by Bibi Netanyahu and the Israeli government. And so that's pretty much basically the spectrum, if you wish, or the range of the possibilities. And that's it. Of course, they may try to, do their traditional thing like, alpha strikes, bring another carrier battle group in the area. Okay, that will bring it to the 120 aircraft capable of rotating and launching whatever they can launch. But again, United States is absolutely incapable in absolute terms to conduct combined arms operations. The only, especially in Iran, this is a nightmarish terrain, and the U.S. Army is absolutely incapable to really fight that kind of war. Iran is a large country with the significant industrial capability and significant armed forces. And so the only hope is to create some kind of the, range of the explosions, all kinds of things like that, and maybe utilize whatever there is left there in the fifth column to overthrow the regime, as they say. Well, they can try. The problem for them, as I already stated, from Al-Udeid or whatever the number of other bases, they get it. in order for them to do this, they need to start withdraw their personnel. And anybody who thinks that Patriot Pact 3 can defend against the massive strike, I have a bridge to sell them. Okay, so and Trump, the last thing Trump needs now are the coffins covered in stars and stripes, going back home. And that could create massive losses, casualties on American side. So, who knows? But as you already stated, as long as Iranians are ready, it all may come to naught, and maybe probably the shares of Raytheon may go up after that because they will have to replenish whatever they will spend. But other than that, I don't see much in this, so to speak, direction, unless, of course, we're talking maybe of things which we don't know, some kind of massive, liberal pro-Western cell ready to pick up arms and go and overthrow the, maybe, I don't know, but, who knows? You can never discard any possibility, but
Andrei, we had here in Iran the chief of staff of the Iranian armed forces, Major General Abdurrahim Musavi. He said after the 12-day war, Iran's military doctrine has shifted from defensive to offensive,
yeah.
with a focus on asymmetric warfare.
Yeah, absolutely. That's and again, most of wars are asymmetric by nature, in a sense that you exploit the weakness of the weak spots of your enemy, and you go, all in. Iran has ways to exploit this, and as I already stated, United States actually is exposed in the region because of the range of the Iranian missiles, and so. And then again, listen, you probably remember when Iranian intelligence showed the videos from the inside of the Nevatim nuclear facilities, which obviously showed that there are Iranian agents operating somewhere there in Israel, for example. So Israel has a pretty much extensive intelligence network. So yeah, it takes two to tango, and two can do the same thing, So yeah, Iran, I assume, has more than enough assets in the region, especially to make, it's very painful for the United States and Israel.
Andrei, do you see the governments or the states in the region, Arab states mostly, together with Turkey? Because it's so important to understand the behavior of Turkey. Turkey is somehow a player. I would say I see the same thing from Turkey. When it comes to Ukraine, when it comes to Iran, you see Turkey somehow trying, on one hand, you see they're trying to do something. On the other hand, they're trying to get closer to the United States. How do you see the role of Turkey, and comparing to what's going on in the mind of the Arab states in the region, which we know if something happens, the Arab states gonna be, I would say, devastated by the war.
Yeah, I mean, we know that, and we know that those governments, Arab governments primarily, and they're utterly corrupt. I mean, they are sometimes monarchy satrapies, and they depend completely on what we all know, the flow of the oil, primarily. And so per Turkey, Mr. Erdogan is multi-vector guy, okay? That is to say that he's multi-chair guy. He tries to sit on all chairs simultaneously. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it don't. But you have to understand that Turkey is really dependent on the United States and in many critical respects. And Erdogan will continue to try to do this thing because he thinks that he's smarter than everybody else. Of course, the issue here is that Turkey is pushed. First, we have to understand that Erdogan, being a Muslim Brotherhood, he is obsessed with this idiotic idea of Turk people, so he has this global plans, which are, of course, kindergarten level, really, of somehow unifying Turkish people or Turk people all over the Eurasia and things of this nature. Turkey doesn't have the resources for that, and as such, especially considering that they have the economic problems, that he will have to basically toe the party line in the end with the United States, no matter what he says, and a lot of what he does is also PR. So it's Turkey, all right? They wanted to be the leaders of the Islamic world. They want to capture the glory of the Ottoman Empire days and things of this nature. I doubt that. So, and that's why Turkey views Iran as the competitor. First, apart from the fact that they're Sunni and Shiites, Turks are Sunnis. They view Shiite Iran as not only viable as Iran demonstrated itself that it's a really tough country. Again, remember last 12 days when Israel learned the hard way that you don't mess with that. So, and in this case, we have to understand that there are many sympathy from what I gather. And again, don't quote me on that, but from what I gather, there's a lot of sympathy towards Iran in the Arab street. But then again, when was the last time an Arab street mattered? So, and Arabs, they completely discredited themselves, especially with the issues of Gaza and what was perpetrated there by Israel, and they set it out. The only country which actually was doing something about it was, of course, Iran. And so there's a lot, so to speak, the critical points where the interests collide between Iran and, let's say, Arab satrapies and governments. So in this case, doesn't matter what Arab Street thinks. I don't know. I mean, those are primarily monarchies or, not totalitarian, but dictatorships in many respects, So that's what is happening there. But in Iran, if God forbid something happens militarily, Iran may come out damaged, but I think they will come out much stronger in every single, facet of the international relations. And again, this time we know that both Russia and China do something. Whatever they're doing, I don't know. We can only sit and speculate here. We know that probably it's not only technological cooperation. And again, there was this really strange in a positive sense, I would say, statement which came out of Iran about a couple of weeks ago. It's kind of, I read it, and it was from the reliable source. It was from one of the major Russian news official channels, when Iran actually demanded, which I can understand this totally. I'm not blaming that. That Iran demanded that Russia, with her ISR capability, intelligence, surveillance, and recon, provided the analysis of the strategic situation around Iran to Tehran. Could this request have been issued or even demand? I'm positive it did, and so I am positive Russians reacted very positively to that. They say, yeah, we're going to provide you with whatever, so. And something tells me that Iran is not alone.
Andrei, Netanyahu and the government in Israel, they're somehow talking about if the United States decides not to attack Iran, we can do it unilaterally. Is Israel, let's put it this way, is Israel able to attack Iran without the assistance of the United States?
No, they need tankers. They need this fleet of KC-135s, I believe that, which United States only possesses in order for them to. Then they need to have the weapons which are with a longer range, unlike their pretty limited range standoff weapons. Which will require for them to enter the Iranian airspace, where they will be immediately, targeted by the air defense. So they can try. If nothing good will come out of it, and I'm pretty sure Israel will get this time even worse beating than they took, last time. So. They still believe in this American air defense, which doesn't work, of course. But what can I say? They might try. I doubt they can do it really in any meaningful way. They can still do some damage, make no mistake, but primarily it's all American operation, and they may have some, Israeli aircraft, flying there. But the whole notion of the air battle as it exists in the United States, it's obsolete in many respects, and it's still stuck in the 1990s. I am actually going to be making the video about it after we're done today. And but yeah, they believe in this air forces and things like that without understanding what actually the real serious air defense is. And Iran definitely has air defense. I mean, it's not as obviously as good as Russian one, but it's a solid air defense. It does significant mitigation of any kind of the attacks from the air on Iranian facilities. And so, yeah, we can assume that not much will come out for Israel if they decide to do that.
Andrei, do you see my understanding of what's going on right now in Iran is that the military, the intelligence they're talking about, the manipulation they've been trying to do here in Iran. I think
Yeah.
it's all defeated, and they cannot have any sort of hope in that direction. That's why the military option is still on the table to be considered. But when I talk with ordinary people, when you talk with the officials, with the
Yeah.
policymakers, it's something. When you talk with ordinary people, they say, so let's assume the United States would attack Iran. What can they do? They're gonna bomb this place, that place. How is that gonna change the Iranian power? How is that gonna change, the way? Because an attack on Iran doesn't change anything, in my opinion.
I agree. I agree. Again, as long as Iranian nation stands firm, and we are talking about very large country, it's 90 million population. This is not Iraq, and this is completely
Andre,
different.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, do you hear me? Huh.
You're back, Andre.
Oh, okay. So yeah, as long as the Iranian nation stands firm and unified, with some exception of the urban liberals who still believe into all those fairy tales from the West. What can they do? United States, again, United States cannot fight serious enemies. Period. It's not in the doctrine. I mean, the doctrine is written for the essentially expeditionary force, which have to fight the indigenous people, preferably with the arrows and bows, and who cannot shoot back. That's pretty much American way of war. Iran is not even Vietnam. And these are people with the serious pedigree in terms of their first. There is a serious Iranian antiquity, even when it was Persia. So there's a lot of things which play for the psyche and psychological portrait of Iranians. I mean, not that it has no problem. Of course, it does. Anybody does. But point is, you cannot break this nation. I doubt it. And essentially what Iran endured, including the war with Iraq, and Iraq was supported by the half of the world, including Soviet Union and United States and NATO, and they still failed. So that tells you something about people which fought. I mean, granted, they have been operating at that time on the emotional high of the Islamic Revolution, but when you look at this, these are not people you wanted to screw with, So, and what can I say? They can bomb whatever the hell they can, but that's the only thing they do. They cannot put their boots on the ground and face the real enemy. And Iran is the real enemy. And when you look at the terrain, it's a nightmarish terrain. If they think that they can put any kind of the armored force, and we can maneuver. No, you cannot maneuver in Iran. You're going to be actually drawn into this catastrophic terrain, into those narrows, and you're going to be killed. Simple as that.
Andre, we know that they're talking about negotiations between the Iranian foreign minister and Steve Witkoff in Oman. And it seems, Andre, after all these, the nuclear weapons, it seems that the United States, Al Jazeera reported that the United States is now demanding that Iran limit its energy export to China. It's somehow amazing. These people, these are reasonable people. Do they really
No.
understand what they're talking about?
Well, I mean, maybe some maybe do, but again, their livelihood depends on that, you know. So they have mortgages, they have their whatever families. Some have several families, maybe, you know. So they need to, you know, somehow provide for themselves. So they will go along with any idiocy which Trump generates. And his idea is that he wants to really cut China off, you know, energy. And of course, China receives up to up to a third of its energy, which goes through the shipping lanes of communications, which go through Strait of Hormuz and obviously Indian Ocean. And so, but again, Trump is too late, and he's too uneducated and too primitive to understand. I'm sick and tired, you know, hearing things about some strategy, and there are no strategists. Trump won't understand the first thing about strategy. It's his desires, you know, that's how he sees the world, and he thinks that you can call it strategy. So he will try to do what he is trying to do with everything, you know, bully, you know, the kind of things like, you know, shaking the air, you know, and fists in the air. But the problem is he's a paper tiger, and the only thing they can do is to threaten all kinds of the sanctions. But if Iran closes Strait of Hormuz, which it can do, and we know that this morning already Iranians stopped two tankers from what I read in the morning. So Trump, he is taco. They call him taco for a reason. Trump, Trump again chickened out, you know. So, and he knows, he probably should understand, he doesn't have much behind him, you know. So, yeah, let's do the blockade with, you know, naval blockade of Iran, for example. Okay. And Iran is the continental power. I mean, it's not only sea power, it's continental power, which has the lanes of communications, and which, of course, now we have the situation where one of the railroads coming through Turkmenistan is in operation now. They're building the Caspian Sea Bridge, so to speak. And well, I'm not sure about Azerbaijan, but evidently Azerbaijan wants still to have this north-south corridor, you know. But yeah, this Mr. Aliyev is a little bit out of his league if he thinks that he can play serious games there. But I mean, Iran has the land bridge anyway, you know, to Russia especially. And so they want to damage China, obviously. Trump is obsessed with China, and maybe he will, at some point of time, be able to outplay them, because Chinese still avoiding the real, you know, face-to-face confrontation on the kinetic terms, unlike Russia. Russia can talk to the United States, say, and tell them go pound sand, and China cannot do that. They can play the, you know, this economic game, diplomatic game, but if they want to do something, I don't know, probably Trump senses that, which is understandable. China doesn't want war. The Russians are ready for any kind of the development. China is not. So, but Iran is, and that's another part. So, okay, go with your strategy, go get this, you know, naval blockade, let China unplug it, you know. But as we know, there is indeed very serious issue of Iran. If Iran decides, it can break essentially the global economy, especially of the West, by just closing the Strait of Hormuz, and that will be very bad. Let's put it this way. And Trump probably understands, but he has what we have coming midterms. Trump needs some kind of, you know, just, well, they kidnapped Maduro, but it's obviously not enough. It's primarily, you know, the donkey loaded with the sacks of gold, not military prowess. And so, I don't know. It's difficult to say. It's such a complex situation for Trump. because, as I already stated, United States has been exposed as militarily as the paper tiger. Its technology doesn't work. Its operation planning is that of amateurs, basically. And we see today what is going on with Ukraine. I mean, what are you going to do? United States doesn't even have air defense complexes which work, So, and yeah, that tells you everything you need to know. So, the game continues, and we'll see very soon.